The embattled Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, defied a government ban and stormed her constituency in Kogi Central yesterday, arriving in a helicopter despite restrictions placed by the state government and the police. A massive crowd of supporters gathered in Ihima, Okehi local government area to welcome the PDP lawmaker who has been facing political persecution, including a Senate suspension and a recall process.
Addressing the crowd, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan alleged that a meeting was held between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former Governor of Kogi State Yahaya Bello, where plans were discussed to recall her from her office and even eliminate her. She insisted that her persecution was politically motivated. Now, join us this morning to discuss this development is legal practitioner, Barrister Evans Ufelli. One welcome to you. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Morning.
Good to see you, fresh from
the abroad. Maybe a good place to start the conversation would be to ask if any laws were broken, because she kept saying, I have not broken any laws. I have come to be with my people. She's an Ibira woman who's come to celebrate Eid with her people. And, you know, there had been a decree or a directive, a security directive. So has she done anything illegal?
Well, the law is against procession, convoy procession. That is what the law is targeted against. And it's one that actually ordinarily will violate citizens' rights to movement, however they choose to move. Okay, we know that under tense security situation, your rights to movement and all that, as predicated on that section, 35, can be taken off for the purposes of security. But in the case on that reference, it was procession. You know, that's what the law is targeted against. Okay. Now, according to her, she came with an helicopter. She was not in any procession, and she had carried out what she wanted to do and all that. So, for me, from the point of view, I've not seen any violation. I've not seen any violation.
They also ban public gatherings.
Yeah, they ban
security.
Yeah, they ban public gathering. But you ask yourself in Kogi State, what is the security issue in Kogi State? I mean, we know the tense security situation in River State. What exactly is the security issue in there? The law was actually made in bad faith, targeted against just her person. That is what I think about it, and that is the truth. The government can decide to stretch it left, right, and center to find violations and all that. But the truth is that the Constitution is supreme. That's the first thing we must understand, that even when you are making subsidiary legislations, when they run against the Constitution will supersede it. So I don't agree that governors or lawmakers in the state should make laws just to repress individuals. That's not why laws should be made. Laws should be made to project society. Okay. These same persons, they are saying they should not gather, they should not do procession. How many laws have the State House of Assembly of Kogi State made to alleviate poverty, for example? How many laws have they made to enhance humanity? Okay, so if they have not made any, and if they are not in that direction of making and projecting the lives of the people forward, but making laws to teleguide one another as politicians, or to fight among themselves and use the people as a guinea pig.
So you think this laws are politically motivated? Very politically motivated.
It's just against her and all that. So there's nothing. I mean, you see that her opposition from her constituency. First of all, the mandate was stolen. Okay, after the elections, it was the court that restored it. Okay, now along the line, she had problem with the National Assembly. She's been suspended now. Her opposition, they are back alive, okay, to look for a way to discredit her. First, they told the people that they are going to empower them. They should come and sign and show their voters' cards and all that, only for it to turn out that they were doing that to recall her, okay? Now, look, you need to check the intentions behind every action I've been taking against her, including the law made, okay, and all that. So I'm not encouraging dissent, or I'm not saying people should break law or go about, but laws should be sincere. They should have human face. Okay, if you are a representative of a constituency, you cannot make a law to say that your constituents should not gather to hear from their representative. I mean, she's been away for so long, from the National Assembly to the US to all the whatever media places. Now, this is homecoming. You can't just come and then make a law that she should not come home, or if she's going to come, there should be no procession, or people should not gather. I mean, it's because this law is even antithetical to democracy, because ordinarily, you are supposed to be having a review, either monthly, quarterly review. Your lawmakers should come back home. That's why they need to have constituency offices. It's just that in Nigeria, democracy is not about the
pulse of what's going on.
Yes, it's just that in Nigeria, democracy is not about the people at all. That is why they come up with this kind of law. That you can be a senator and just remain in Abuja all your life and never get back to your people and all that. All right. So people go about making laws against a lawmaker going to meet the people who gave her mandate for the purpose of which she's serving. I mean, I don't think this law is in bad faith. We all know that it's in bad faith. And we should be able to speak the truth at all times.
Well, they probably had some security directive that we're not aware of, some security information that we're not aware. But beyond security, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was able to address her constituents, and she spoke about INEC, talking about how the responsibility lies on INEC to be able to, disprove a lot of the fake signatures that she's made reference to. But let's take a look at the video.
The Senate, so that I could resume my functions as a senator duly elected by my people. But if perchance I am not recalled on time, I will still continue carrying out my activities. Tomorrow we're going to commence the reconstruction of 3 primary health care centers in Kogi Central, and we have a lot of other activities on. We also have some empowerment programs that will be coming up this week here. It doesn't stop me from doing my work, even if it means I have to work extra hard, since I'm out of office temporarily, to make my people feel the good impact of democracy. But I pray that Nigerians across, even beyond Kogi Central, will be able to continuously lend their voices, because an injustice to me is an injustice to everyone. We all see what is happening to Governor Fubara himself, whereby he's suspended for 6 months as well, against the backdrop, against the Constitution. I did mention that the Nigerian Constitution does not allow the suspension of elected.
The few videos that circulated and pictures were in Ododo's ward and Yahaya Bello's ward. Most parts of Kogi Central, there was no activity. So what did they do? They went into some rooms and assembled a few of them and started filling in the petitions themselves. That was what they did. And I believe INEC has been notified of this. And this actually is another litmus test on INEC to redeem its image. 250,000, really? 250,000 here in Kogi Central came out in just about how many days? In 2 days? In 2 days, 250,000 people came out to sign petitions for the recall of the most performing senator in Nigeria. Are they for real? From my own personal perspective, what I see INEC doing is aiding and guiding the petitioners on how to perfect their illicit acts. The first time the petition was submitted, they didn't have address, phone numbers, and all of that. So we ran a check on the status of registration of the association, which sponsored my recall, Kogi Central Political Frontier, and the CAC report came negative that association is not registered. So I'm still waiting. I'm wondering why INEC has not yet made a statement to that effect.
We came here and they said around 250,000 people have signed the recall notice to recall your Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to back from the National Assembly. Why do you want to recall her back?
The recall process of our distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, I think, is an arrangement between people who do not mean well for the people of Kogi Central. She has not done anything to us. There is nothing the federal government has given to her to give us that she has not given to us. We don't have issues with her personally. The issue with the Senate President shouldn't bother us at all. So it is just some greedy elements who has lost touch with the reality on ground that wants to recall her.
But did you sign the recall? Did you sign it?
Nobody visited my polling unit to ask for our signature for the recall of our senator. We are waiting for the people who forged our signature to come, if INEC deem it fit, to come and verify those forged signatures. We shall arrest some people who forged our signature. We've already submitted a petition to the police, informing the police that people forged our signature for the recall of Natasha. So we are waiting for INEC to come, so we will show INEC that.
A lot of pressure on INEC. This is said to be the litmus test. Let's get your reaction to that.
Yes, Section 110 of the 1999 Constitution says you need 51%, okay, of those who voted, those who directly gave their mandate, not anybody, okay.
And she had
so
how many thousand? I think like 53 or 54,074 that voted for her. Are we talking of those that voted for her or those that voted in general for the election?
Those who voted for her, not those who, the mandate she got that gave her the victory, those same persons, 51% of them are now saying we don't want her there. Okay, not just anybody. Right. But what they are doing is they just went there and anybody they find, as long as you have, and they are taking signatures and all that. So
why is INEC wasting its own time? Because INEC knows the laws. It's almost like INEC is teleguiding them. They submitted a recall, some signatures at first. INEC told them, look, these signatures don't have addresses, email addresses, and some information. They went back, came back in record time. They should have made Guinness Book of Records. And they gave it back to INEC. And INEC is now saying now they are proceeding to a referendum. Is it that INEC is not following his own checks and guidelines?
If they did it before and they didn't get it right, and if they are still within time, if they are still within time, they can go back and do whatever they want.
But why didn't INEC tell them is the signatures of 51%?
It's not INEC that should tell them. They should read the law before they start the exercise. INEC is not the... INEC's role is to look at what they have done. And this will have to get back to the National Assembly, okay?
Okay.
So if what they have... the truth is, even after they finish whatever they are doing, and they take a decision that's against us, you can still go to court, you know, to challenge it.
There are legal options.
Yes, there are options here, because we know that in Dino Melai's case, Dino Melai didn't have problem actually with the National Assembly at that time, the Saraki Assembly at that time. So when they got through and it came back to the House, because the Senate President will have to, you know, give a vent to it, okay? But in this case, Akpoti's case is that she have a problem with the National Assembly. So by the time it goes through the process and the process is clean enough, once you get back to the National Assembly, you know she's gone. Because the National Assembly want her out.
Exactly.
You understand? Which is contrary to the case of Dino Melai, where it was few persons who were in the field and all that did all that. So I think they should continue the process and they should do it very well, because where mistakes are found anyway, already they are getting it wrong, you know, by impersonation.
Exactly.
Which is visibly seen by everyone and all that. And the people from the constituency have also said that there's an element of fraud in it. At the beginning, they told them that they came to empower them, except that I've not seen evidence of that. They should have evidence of where maybe text messages were sent to them for empowerment or voice notes, something like that. They should gather all that, because once fraud is inferable from the process, it kills the process, no matter what anybody thinks about it.
All right. Anyway, we do have a man who was there yesterday in covering the entire happenings there in Kogi State. Sir Gary Ibrahim joins us this morning. Good morning to you. And if you can hear us, Can you bring us up to speed on what really took place yesterday? What did you see? Would you say that the people that came out en masse, that we did also see in that video, were they the same people that made up the 250,000 in numbers that want Senator Natasha out of her position?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning to everyone in the studio, and good morning to our viewers. Of course, interesting question, and I'm not surprised because we're living in interesting times as well. I mean, who would have thought that something that was termed misconduct on the floor of the Senate would degenerate into me leaving the National Assembly and coming here, right here, you know, in Okehi, the particular constituency of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, over those issues that degenerated, leading to, you know, lawsuits and counter lawsuits, and then the question of whether she's going to be recalled and the legality or not of that process. Well, we've been here since yesterday. Of course, we were at her country home, where she was received, of course, by a multitude of people. I know definitely that I will not be exaggerating when I say these multitudes were in their thousands, because of course we saw some of these videos, you know, online. Even on TV, we had some of the crowd that welcomed her. It was a welcoming that was simply characterized by a large show of love. I do not, from what I observe, see anybody or any person, you know, within that crowd who had any feeling of grudge against her, or would want to, you know, sign any petition to either recall her back or bring her back from the National Assembly because they are not satisfied, you know, with her representation of her people. You can see the streets. Currently, I'm at the popular Total Junction here in Okehi, and as you can see from behind me, activities are going on normally. You would recall that yesterday, Tuesday, the local government chairman had declared a curfew in this local government following the ban, of course, on movements within the state, movements, car convoys and the likes of that, all of course because of the expectation that she was going to be coming into Kogi State, Okehi to be precise, to a rousing welcome by her people. But even that did not do much, because they defied the crowd. Some of them even described it, you know, as a hero's welcome or a heroine's welcome, you know, if you would call it that in this case. They said there's a ban on convoys. Well, she didn't come in a convoy, she came in a helicopter. They said there's a ban on public movement. She didn't do the movement in public, she did it in her private residence, yet the turnout was still so massive. If you're not here to see what's going on, definitely you would think that, you know, all of the issues and all of the news in the media is one that's so serious, to the fact that you would hear that it's 250,000 people and you would want to believe that, oh, maybe she's gone. But I'm telling you, the story is a completely different narrative here in Okehi at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much, Sage, for bringing us up to speed on what happened yesterday. From the conversations that you've heard amongst people and the conversations you've heard with people, what were the reactions to a number of the strong claims that she made? She addressed INEC, she addressed the governor, she addressed the Senate President, and made allegations of an attempt on her life. What was the reaction that you felt from the people as she spoke?
They believed her. They believed her. I mean, she took everybody to the cleaners. If it's not the Senate President, it's the leadership of the National Assembly. If it's not the leadership of the National Assembly, of course, it's former Governor Yahaya Bello. Even the current governor, of course, was not spared in this situation. You recall that she had accused him of being in cahoots with the former governor, you know, to perfect plans for a recall, which she also said is an exercise in futility, because even the petition that was submitted to INEC in her case did not have the necessary means of identifying those who submitted the petition. Hence, in itself, it was faulty. And of course, she did not hold, you know, herself from saying that, of course, it was all a ploy by those she had deemed her political adversaries, if you may. You know, trying to see if they could succeed, of course, with the blessing of the Senate President, to ensure that she is pulled out of the Senate and to ensure that she is dealt with for some of the issues and some of the things that she was accused, you know, of doing on the floor of the Senate, just to set an example of her for others to see that you cannot go against the system and, of course, get away with it scot-free. So these are some of the nuances that we've gotten, and of course, the people continue to remain solidly behind her. There's not a single person that I've spoken to here in Okehi who has had anything negative to say about her, or who is not in support, you know, of her. She literally here is the people's senator. I'm not saying this because I'm here. I'm saying this because this has been the feeling that I've been getting from all of them. I really wish that I could get somebody to speak here, but attempts to get people to speak has, of course, been a futile one. But we'll continue trying. We'll get the people's faces on the camera so they speak for themselves, by themselves, and you hear from the horse's mouth as to what they feel and how they feel about the entire situation and, of course, about their senator. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Okehi Brian, News Central correspondent, speaking there at the popular Total Junction in Okehi, Kogi State. We'll get back to you in our subsequent broadcast. Thank you. Now, Barrister Ufelli, one of the things that the weighty allegations that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan made at that homecoming was very weighty and serious allegations against the former the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former Governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, about an assassination plot. How do we determine the credibility of these allegations, and what should she do at this point? Because it's just taking the whole conversation to another level.
Well, this assassination attempt she's referring to, I would rather advise that she restrain herself from calling names, okay, because you could be sued if you don't have evidence to the event that somebody is actually orchestrating assassination against you. It's a common place in politics, and people know. But knowing is not enough. You need to have evidence. So at the level or at the general scale, you should restrain from calling names. Okay, you can actually make the same point without calling names, just to safeguard yourself from unnecessary dragging here and there.
And is it a better move to have communicated it publicly before telling the security operatives, or should she have done both? Because if you read part of what was said here, it says the second thing he told them is that he should try and kill me. He told him the killing should not be done in Abuja, but at home here, Ibira land. We didn't notify the security agents. I called on the media houses, and I want them to publish the news ahead of time, that this is the nature of their meeting. She's talking about the meeting that was had.
Yes, she didn't notify the security agencies in Kogi State. That's what you're referring to.
Well, I believe that might have been what was said here.
She has her own personal security.
Okay. Or maybe, anyway.
Her security was withdrawn. That is the official security after her suspension was withdrawn. So she's left without security. And now she's an easy target, okay, for whoever is plotting against her. So it's good she stated it, she made that point clear, you know, that I've been receiving threats and all that. Okay, it's good she made that. And to her people, it's good she made that point clear. What I'm saying is that mentioning names is what is not accurate, what should not be done. Because you have to be precise. If you are called now to come and defend that statement, you can't just make oral statements, and you have to present evidence to the fact that this person made a confessional statement that he was sent by this person to come and take. There must be such issues like that before you can actually. If you don't have that evidence, it's not wise, it's not sound in law for you to make such an expression, because you could be wrong. It might even be a different person entirely that is attempting that, trying to carry out that act, not necessarily your opponents. So yes, she needs to restrain from calling names. That's what I think.
I get that. And some experts have also highlighted the fact that maybe she's just putting those names out because those are the names that are known to her and also to the public. But let's move away from that. I want us to discuss the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution.
Yeah.
In her talk in addressing the crowd, she made mention of how the Constitution has all of a sudden lost its credibility. She mentioned the River State governor, what they've done to Fubara, and what they're trying to do to her. As a lawyer, do you think that Nigeria's constitution, the constitution that governs how we move, how we do things as a country, is actually still being upheld, is strong? It's actually what people are used to in terms of those in power? Or do you think there's a paradigm shift that is now starting to weaken Nigeria's constitution, and what's the impact in line with what we've seen happening to
it's not the constitution that have lost its credibility. It's the leaders that are applying extra constitutional means in governance. Okay, the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, is playing politics with the constitution. That's exactly what is going on. Because if you look at Section 305, upon which the state of emergency was declared, the conditions that should warrant that were not met. If you look at it in terms of war, pestilence, disease, breakdown of law and order, and all that.
Threats.
Threats and all that. There are so many conditions. None of these conditions were met. Rivers State was not under any kind of war. It was Wike, his own minister, that was orchestrating the crisis that was ongoing with the State House of Assembly and the governor. Okay? But then look at the proclamation. Okay, the Constitution says you have a proclamation, you reduce into writing, the state gazette, official gazette. In that proclamation, he called out the governor for destroying the State House of Assembly. In that proclamation, he didn't call out the other part, his own minister and the National Assembly and all they were doing. So he took side. Then, under the state of emergency, we have the National Assembly's concurrence, which should almost be a safeguard. If the National Assembly, if the decision of the National Assembly is sought and declined, this wouldn't have been productive. But they just rubber-stamped it, and before you know it, suspended the governor. I mean, if you look at the law itself, the Constitution, there's no place in the Constitution where you should suspend the governor under a state of emergency. Had it been the state of emergency was declared as a result of pestilence or disease or outbreak of, yes, would you, because of disease, suspend the governor?
Right.
That's a good angle.
Because it's not just only when there's political crisis. There are a lot of issues.
That's a good angle to look at that.
Even during war, should you suspend the governor?
Mr. Ufelli, the president's background is not law. That's why he has an attorney general, the chief legal officer, who happens to be a very senior lawyer, has also doubled down on this and said, there are no infractions to the Constitution. You also had the House of Lawmakers who shouldn't have subjected the ratification to a voice vote, violate obvious infractions of the Constitution. We've seen this, that's what Joe raised. We've seen this happening frequently. What are the implications for this regular violation of constitutional provisions and infractions for the country and our democracy?
Let me start with the Attorney General. The case of the Attorney General referendum is quite very unfortunate because the Attorney General suffers from what I call partisan obscurantism.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what it means is that his professional duty has been blurred by his partisanship. He's unable to make legal reasoning because of that partisan obscurantism. He's unable to see the law as the law is because he wants to please his masters. Because it is clear in the law that there is nowhere a governor should be, because the governor holds the mandate of the people. Let me tell you, a governor is to the state what the president is to the nation. They all have mandates, and that mandate can also be taken away by impeachment. Okay, looking at the doctrine of separation of power and checks, okay? So under no circumstance would you, suspend the governor who have the mandate of the people. That's wrong, okay? By law, it's wrong. Okay, that is why an Attorney General should be an Attorney General of the people, not the Attorney General of the President. In civilized democracy, Attorney Generals go to court. In those democracies where Attorney General is elected, they go file case against the executive for the people. He is supposed to be the Attorney General of the masses. He is supposed to be filing cases. In fact, after a state of emergency like this, he's supposed to go to court to challenge the president's decision in civilized democracy, where the Attorney General is not appointed, where he's independent. Okay, that's what he's supposed to do. But look at what he was saying. He even called a press conference where he told the whole world that the president has not violated any law and the rest of that. And I find that rather very disconcerting.
What about the National Assembly?
Yeah, the National Assembly's case is another unfortunate incident because it is at that level that they should have stopped this, because the oversight function that they have under Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution is to ensure that the president does not become arbitrary. Okay? Once the president took that decision to suspend him, even before the National Assembly's concurrence was sought and obtained, the president had already sworn in the sole administrator. Now, that sole administrator took an oath of office.
That's another thing.
With a non-existent law. Then he went to Rivers State and started dissolving ministries, agencies, and all that. So the level of illegality, and I'm surprised why he was allowed into Rivers State. I am Rivers. My mom is from Opobo in Rivers State. I was born in Port Harcourt, Air Force Base, where my dad has served as an Air Force officer. Okay. So when it borders on rivers, it touches me they shouldn't have allowed him to, because once you have an illegality, you have every right and cause to ensure that you throw him out of that place.
Or you cannot put something on nothing and expect.
Yes, you cannot. Lord Dennis said that in UAC versus Mark Ford, that if a matter is void, the law is a nullity. As you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand, it to collapse. That's putting something on nothing, and people allow it.
All right. I want us to quickly talk about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's case in court. We've seen Justice Obiora who has recused himself from the case, and he said that that's, of course, because Senator Godswill Akpabio has alleged bias. Even though, again, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has claimed that from what her findings, it wasn't just about bias, that he was intimidated. But that's not the issue. Now the matter will be handled or handed over to Justice Binta Nyako, the famous Justice Binta Nyako from Nnamdi Kanu's case. Should there be any worries or any concerns of how this might play out as well?
No, I don't think there should be any worries, because if it's not the final court, it's the court of first instance.
Yeah.
So she has options of appeal. So I don't think, if she decides to compromise or whatever it is, we are not trained to preempt judges. That's why I'm being careful, or to preempt the outcome of a case.
Absolutely.
That I'm not, you understand? But there are other options, layers of appeal that she can explore. Okay, so the judge are recused. Every judge has a right to recuse himself for a case and give reasons. It's just to confide with the chief judge and say, see, I have this before me, I cannot undertake this and all that. So it's not uncommon, even though the public can't really get it right, because they are not lawyers. They will keep making stories around it, that he recused himself because of intimidation, he recused himself because of, a judge has a right under the law to recuse himself from a case where he finds out that he may not be objective.
Right.
Yes, based on maybe relationship, maybe whatever it is. So there's a right to do that. The end game is justice. So let's pursue justice, irrespective of whoever is involved.
Whoever is sitting or whatever.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, and now that you've said that there have been no laws that have been broken, she's an Ibra woman who has the right to go home. The Commissioner of Information in Kogi State had said that it is left for security operatives to make what they will of this situation. Do you think that there might be the potential of this matter being investigated, and does she have any remedies if that should happen?
Yeah, I heard him last night when he said that, the commissioner, that the security agencies will take over from there, whether to arrest her or whatever it is. Well, if they arrest her, she has a lot of remedies. The constitutional safeguards is what she will rely on. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution has given every individual, citizens, whether a senator or not, the right to freedom of expression. Okay? The right to have, and all that. And the only point where that right can be taken away temporarily is when you have tension. You have, there's no tension in Kogi State. Whatever is happening in Abuja, and maybe in Rivers State, where you have. So even if the governor comes up with any, or the State House of Assembly comes up with any law to suspend the right of the people temporarily for expression and all that, and if the conditions thereof, if the social and composition of the state is not such that there's any kind of disturbance or tension or whatsoever, that is the ground under which such can be set aside.
All right.
Because the constitution has to prevail, you know.
First, Evans Ufelli, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. I guess the next few hours would unveil a lot with regards Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.